Hello, everybody in Internet Land. I'm Queen Valanice of Daventry. 30 years ago today, well, not today by the time you're watching this, it could be 30 years ago plus a week or a month or even another 30 years. I look good for my age, don't I? Well, 30 years ago, my husband was first introduced to the world as Sir Graham of Daventry. Roberta Williams and her husband Reggie, or was it Kenny, or Paul? One of those, I'm sure. Anyway, Roberta and husband had a dream of becoming computer game designers. Games on the computer. Can you imagine? Roberta drew the pictures, and her husband clickety-clicked away on the computer, making the pictures move on their own. Pictures moving on their own. We must be living in the future, we really must. They made their first games right from the kitchen table. Dear Roberta could have been eating a sandwich and just decided, I want to make a game today. And so she did, she really did. She put down that sandwich and made Mystery House. Although we aren't here to talk about Mystery House today, we're talking about King's Quest. Yes, the game series where I am the star. Well, myself and a few other family members, of course. Yes, it all started back with King's Quest 1, Quest for the Crown. We didn't look like Disney characters in those days. We looked like pixels. Yes, a pixel for the nose, a pixel for the hair. Not many options for hairstyles when your entire hairdo is made up of 3 pixels. Can we use footage from the VGA remakes, please? Yes, the VGA remakes. Yes, thank you. There, that's better. This is a 45-pixel hairdo at least. And now we begin with King's Quest 1, Quest for the Crown. Well, young Graham started out as a knight in the land of Daventry, when one day the king fell ill after his 3 treasures had been stolen. Well, Graham went to the local seamstress to find an outfit he'd want to wear for the next 30 years, and he had it made, and he put it on. Before you know it, his quest to return the treasures was completed, and the old king crowned him as the new ruler of Daventry, King Graham. Well then, in King's Quest 2, now we get to the really important part. In King's Quest 2, Romancing the Throne, the castle was getting awfully dusty, and Graham was getting tired of eating his own cooking day after day. So after going on a quest to rescue me from a tower, I organized the first Castle Daventry housekeeping and maid service. Why, yes, I hired a young girl down the lane to do the housework for us. Wonderful cook and seamstress, just what my husband needed. I don't know where he would be without me. Well then, in King's Quest 3, To Err is Human, we had 2 wonderful children, Alexander and Rosella. While King Graham and I were up late watching Goose Dynasty, a nasty little witch came and stole my little Alexander away and gave him the horrible name of Gwydion. Can you imagine? Of course, we didn't notice he was missing until the following morning when the nanny arrived, but we were so devastated all the same. When little Gwydion grew up as a servant boy in rags, he turned out to be our little hero. He could fly, he could talk to animals and conjure weather. Can you imagine that? He could actually control the weather with his little finger. Well, we changed his name back to Alexander, of course, and after his homecoming, his sister Rosella got as jealous as a gaboot and wanted to go on her own adventure. King's Quest 4, The Perils of Rosella. Oh, sibling rivalry. They always have to one-up each other. Quite exhausting, really. So, she teams up with a magic fairy and rescues my husband from illness. Well, that was certainly convenient since it was he who goes on the next adventure. King's Quest 5, Absence Makes the Heart Go Fonder. This time, a wizard takes his revenge and entraps us all in a jar. A jar! Oh, it was so uncomfortable. Well, lucky for Graham, he was taking one of his little morning strolls and avoided the whole thing. Well, that is, if you call wandering aimlessly in the desert, throwing a pie at a yeti, and dying a few dozen times a day as avoiding the whole thing. Well, Graham remembered to save his game every 30 seconds, so he was pretty good at getting through traumatic situations. Well, you'll never believe this, but Graham also rescued a kitchen girl, Cosima, who turns out to be a princess in disguise. Can you imagine a princess doing her own dishes? Appalling, really. So, in King's Quest VI, Heir Today Gone Tomorrow, my son Alexander hasn't had enough trouble for one lifetime and leaves home yet again, this time sailing after the kitchen girl, with no address, no GPS or anything. Well, there he finds her locked in a tower. He makes a deal with a clown, and the whole thing just sort of works out from there. Then, in King's Quest VII, The Princeless Bride, there I was in Daventry, just dying for a Disney makeover, and along comes Roberta with her dream team of would-be Disney artists, and I get my wish. Bright colors, 4 fingers, poofy sleeves the size of my face. What more could a queen ask for? My daughter, Rosella, even got her own song. Very touching, you should hear it. It goes, grow up, young lady, and so forth. So after 6 chapters of foiling trolls and facing the boogeyman and sliding down rainbows, really sliding down Disney rainbows, we come out all right in the end. In fact, we rode off into the sunset on the back of giant swans. Well, then comes King's Quest VIII, the Great Mask, or Mask of Eternity, or something like that. Apparently, our bright-colored 4-finger Disney makeover wasn't good enough for PR because, well, the next sequel didn't have any color at all, except for brown. Yes, lots of brown. Brown must have been in that year. Well, we all must have been really busy at the palace or something because none of us were even in the last King's Quest. Whoops. They had some really old stand-in with a British accent play my husband. I suppose he was convincing enough, but the giveaway was his outfit. Graham would never allow himself to be photographed without his blue and red feather hat. Of course, instead of solving puzzles, interacting with characters in fairy tales, this one was about fighting zombies, I think. Anyway, we cherish it as a beloved member of the King's Quest family. It's a pity our story ended there. I always wanted to know what I'd look like as a 2D vector. I had a dream once I was alive and well and in a teen vampire romance. Alas, I realized I fell asleep reading a Stephanie Meyer novel. Anyway, happy birthday, King's Quest. Let's hope to see you alive and well in another 30 years.